From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
Hello everyone, I'm Meteorologist Mike Krueger, and you are watching your Friday morning update. Yes, the weekend is almost here. We got a few things to talk about here. Let's start with our weather headlines. And of course, I've been talking about these cooler temperatures all week long as we go into the weekend and especially early next week. It's going to be a bit of a taste of fall. A forecast model is backing down on the overall intensity of just how much cooler it will get, but still cooler nonetheless. Now, there's going to be a potential for some thunderstorms here, even for parts of the weekend. We'll talk about that in more detail. Also, next week, it's not looking all that promising that we're going to see a ton of rain, even for the valley, but it's something worth watching. And as I mentioned, maybe a slight chance for a valley shower or two. And I would say that's probably mainly going to be around a Tuesday type of event, should we see anything. If we even see anything, right? So again, a lot to talk about in your deeper dive forecast. But before we get to that, here is your Krueger's Quickcast for your Friday, September 5th. You know, we are going to be looking at those temperatures already starting to drop. We're starting off with these cooler mornings. We're down to 64 degrees, 8 o'clock in the morning, 64 degrees in the valley, mid-50s, mid to upper 50s for most of the higher elevations in the coast, and even the eastern mountains, some in the low 60s under those mainly clear skies. So you can see a bit of a spin of low pressure over the Gulf of Alaska to the south and east of that, just off of our coast. We're seeing a bit of a spin as well. That is what may have an impact on our weather by the time we get into your Saturday. But before that, we've still got to get through today. Now, it'll mainly be dry, and I don't expect even a lot of thunderstorms for Modoc County. And I find it interesting that the Weather Service has issued a red flag warning for Modoc County and does not include extreme eastern Modoc County, because that's where I think most of the thunderstorms will be, should we even see any. All right, so let's take a look at that. Let's see what Futurecast has in store for us today. Now, this model is actually more aggressive than the HRRR forecast model. If we were to look at the HRRR forecast model, it wouldn't show anything over Modoc County at all today. So let's take you through time today. And about 12 o'clock today, we start to see that? Mainly in eastern Modoc County. Look where it all stays. Eastern Modoc County. But it's mainly outside of the state. It makes its way to Nevada and into southern Oregon. But for Modoc County, those chances are pretty slim. So that's where I would anticipate lightning strikes, is mainly east of Highway 395. And that's something I've been talking about over the last 2-3 days. And you can see here as we're going to tonight, still looking at those dry conditions. And by the way, still seeing that fog along the coast. All right, so temperatures are starting to drop. We're noticing that upper 80s to low 90s in the valley, 80s, even some low 90s for the higher elevations, that is. And temperatures low to mid 60s as we take you out along the coast as well under partly to mostly cloudy skies. All right, so let's take a look at your 7-day outlook for the valley. Those temperatures are dropping. We're in the low 80s at least by Monday through a good portion of next week. Now, notice I put the word chance in there for Tuesday. Don't count on it. Don't cancel any outdoor plans, but just note that that will be the best day we could at least see some minor rainfall accumulations. Meanwhile, the coast, I think you're going to hold off until Monday. Yesterday we were talking about Sunday. Now the models are backing off and waiting until Monday. And we could even see some thunderstorms for places like Trinity County. Now, again, notice Saturday, I got the word chance in there. Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on our deeper dive forecast, but there you can see a chance for Alturas. I think it's mainly going to be east of Alturas. And then even Siskiyou County on Saturday, that chance in there as well as a weak disturbance passes through. But really the main thing that we're watching here is next week, Monday through Wednesday. But then by Thursday, toward the end of next week, those chances will begin to diminish. All right, let's go and take a look at our fire weather forecast sponsored by Garmin's Tractor Service. And, you know, we're going to start off by taking a look at that red flag warning. Actually, no, the fire tracker here. And this is just taking a look at all of the satellite and the satellite detecting different activity here over the last 3 days or so. So yellow dots indicate that it's 24 hours or older. Orange dots are 12 to 24 hours old. And red dots are basically 6 to 12 hours. So that's mainly the kind of the overnight hours here. All right, so let's zoom it in on some of the fires, see what we're dealing with here, see what we're looking at as far as distances to different communities and what it looks like with some of that latest fire activity here. So for the root fire, we're only looking at yellow squares, indicating at least 24 hours old, if not longer. Latest coming in was from yesterday morning at 759 acres, still at 45% containment. Now again, when we see numbers like this, that's almost 24 hours old, it's most likely changed. And we will begin probably getting some new information coming in from the root fire later this morning. All right, so take a look at the distance, and this hasn't changed really since I've been reporting on the root fire. It's about 9.1 miles from Mount Shasta City. All right, one of the bigger fires that we're dealing with here is the Dillon fire. Now, as of last night, 9,763 acres at about 21% containment. So what we've seen here you can see here 1.8 miles from Cottage Grove. Again, that hasn't changed over the last few days. So we're going to take a look at the heat signatures coming out of this and look where most of the activity has been on the west side, and even on the south side we've seen some red dots here as well. So this, as we get the new fire perimeter coming in for the Dillon fire today, I expect that we're going to see this. Right? Now this may very well be a fire operation as well, and it just may fill in, but you get the idea. We certainly are seeing more activity here on the west side of the fire and the north side of the fire. Good news is we're not seeing any recent activity here as we start getting closer to these mountain communities. So that is always a good news. All right, so take a look at the blue fire as of last night, 9:08 p.m., 2,452 acres, and we're still at about 0% containment. Now, coming in from the Incident Command Center, and of course they were kind of talking about that the bulk of the activity has been on the north side of the fire here and even on the west side as well. So there you can see it's about 2 miles from Side Valley, and that really hasn't changed much. But as mentioned, what we're starting to see happen here is that the bulk of the activity here over the last 24 hours, as you can see on the north side of the fire. Now that's obviously a bit of a concern, because we don't want it to grow any closer to Highway 96 or Side Valley for that matter. But you can also see there's been a bit of a concern here on the west side of the fire. Just a lot of spotty activity here on the west side, but we're not really seeing any activity here on the southeast side of the fire. But taking a look now, kind of a very rural area here with the log fire. It's at 971 acres as of yesterday morning at about 11:10 in the morning. Now, looking at the latest satellite detected activity, there have been a few spots here outside of the fire perimeter here, showing some recent activity coming out of the log fire. All right, now let's take you out to the lick fire here, and you can see it's at 36 acres as of yesterday afternoon at 4:53, 65% containment at 4.5 miles from the Coffee Creek area. This has not moved or changed, and haven't seen any recent activity coming out of that fire either. Now we take a look at the Peak fire. This has mainly just been growing up the mountainside here. You can see as of yesterday afternoon, 506 acres at about 21% containment, about 3.5 miles from Covington Mill. And again, these distances I put on here for you for that ease of mind, that if you've been watching it all this week, you'll notice that these numbers haven't changed, meaning that the fire isn't growing any closer to any of these mountain communities. And where we're seeing the bulk of the activity here over the last few days has been kind of on the north side. In fact, that was an orange dot yesterday, so really no recent activity coming out of the Peak fire, at least anything major, right? So now we take a look at the Cedar fire. This is out in southern Trinity County. There's Hay Fork, there's Peanut, right? There's Highway 3. So you can see it's as of yesterday, last night, 7:52, 91 acres at about 15% containment. No recent activity coming out of this fire either, at least anything major, and still about 10 miles from Hay Fork. So really, all in all, this fire has kind of slowed down a bit. That's good, but we'd like to maybe see some higher containment numbers on it. The Big Cliff fire is kind of one of those fires that it's just kind of in the back of our minds because we're not getting a lot of reports on it. The latest report was as of August 29th at 1:03 p.m., 993 acres, 75% containment. But again, these numbers are most likely different than what we're seeing here because this is several days old. But once we get the latest report, latest information coming in from the Big Cliff Fire, we'll certainly keep you informed. Take a look at the smoke, and most of the smoke that we're seeing here is being produced by the Log, Dillon, and Blue fires. These are the most active fires that we still have in western Siskiyou County. And really, it's just most of that smoke with those fires is in central and western Siskiyou County. Some of it spilling over into eastern Siskiyou, Modoc, and even northern Lassen County. And then there you can see some of the smoke still, even as we go into Saturday afternoon. So a little bit of haze. You'll probably notice that for everybody. There's just kind of that haze in the sky, but it's not really all that thick or dense. There you can see, again, just want to show you the overall wind pattern. Nothing for you to be alarmed about. We do expect the winds to maybe pick up a little bit more as we go into Saturday afternoon, as we see here, especially out towards central Siskiyou County, upwards of around 30 miles per hour, unfortunately, and just those 20 plus mile-an-hour winds here for the eastern mountains. And then Sunday midday, nothing major, although they'll probably pick up again Sunday afternoon. Fire weather risk, actually not that bad. Of course, we are still in that high range for Shasta Valley and central Siskiyou County, but overall that fire weather risk is dropping, but we still can't let our guard down as we go through the weekend. All right, that is a look at your Krueger's Quickcast and the latest on the fires. Before we get to that deeper dive forecast, just want to remind you of a 24-hour streaming channel that is available to you free of charge. If you've got Roku or Fire Stick, you can download the Weather NorCal app on those devices, watch the 24-hour channel whenever you want. It's a great resource. And if you have a smart TV, whether it's Fire TV or Roku or any other device, Apple TV, for example, or your smart TV in general, most likely has the YouTube app. All you have to do is search for Weather NorCal. Put a space between Weather NorCal, by the way, and you can watch the YouTube channel on your TV. And the YouTube app also allows you to watch on demand the latest video forecast. You can watch it right there on your big screen TV. All right, low pressure system kind of spinning right here. You see a bit of a disturbance, right? That's going to be moving through over the next 24 hours, and that is going to be that potential for some thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon for parts of Northern California. More on that in just a bit. I want to show you just how dry it is. Drier air moving into Southern California. We still have just enough leftover moisture that there could be a stray thunderstorm for parts of Modoc County. But you can see here, I mean, look at this drier slot here, especially the brown along the Sierra, but even in here in Northern California. And where we see some of the typical areas where there's a little bit more moisture is along the coast and some of that kind of in the valley as well. And that's just simply because we've got some of that moisture kind of streaming on in. Now, we go into Saturday, 6 p.m., once again, still quite dry, even that dry slot. However, as mentioned, there could be that weak disturbance passing through Trinity County. And we'll show you that here in just a bit, even Siskiyou County. And then Sunday, we've got to watch this because that's what's going to be coming in on Monday. See that spin and the moisture associated with it? That's what's going to bring us a potential for some of that rain for some of us by Monday. And we'll take a closer look at that here in a second. By the way, there might even be that potential for some fog this morning towards Butte and Glenn counties and southward as you get closer to Sacramento. But of course, the typical spots where we're seeing the fog, even working its way into Garberville and some of those inland valleys this morning, pretty dense fog as a matter of fact. Having a hard time really clearing that out. But you see that? Yeah, that's where it is, right? That's the best potential for showers and thunderstorms here is right here at 5 p.m. or early through the afternoon for Modoc County. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the HRRR forecast model has nothing in there. Now look at Saturday. You see this kind of just skirting right there around the state line. All right, so if some of those spill over in extreme eastern Lassen or even Modoc County Saturday, wouldn't be surprised, but nothing to be concerned about. Still that fog along the coast and maybe some morning fog here out towards the southern portion of the valley as well. But there it is. You see this disturbance kind of pushing through. Getting a little bit more aggressive here this morning with the potential for thunderstorms, but I would say at least maybe a stray shower and an off chance for a thunderstorm. And you can see here, here's Highway 299. I think most of it will be north of 299. I mean, places like Hayfork and even south where you can see some of the clouds here and a few showers trying to develop. That's not out of the question. But you can see it's going to be in northern Trinity County, central and western Siskiyou County is where I think we could see the bulk of that activity here throughout your Saturday afternoon. And then by Saturday night, that's all gone. And then Sunday morning, once again, maybe some fog out near places like Chico and Willows and Oroville. And then Sunday afternoon, that should burn off. Now, again, I think it'll be dry all day on Sunday. But then by Monday, we've got that next storm system coming in. And I do think there'll be enough moisture that Siskiyou, Trinity County, and the north coast could see some showers. And it's not out of the question for a few thunderstorms for some of those mountain locations, especially in Trinity County and Siskiyou County. Now you can see it's trying to skirt places like Redding. I just don't think it's going to be enough moisture for us to really see anything significant. And so I would say that we have that potential maybe, say, Monday evening into Tuesday for parts of the valley to see that. But I mean, if you look through Wednesday, nothing very impressive. And if you were to look at the forecast coming from the National Weather Service each and every single day, Monday through even Thursday, I think it's showing a chance for rain for all of Northern California, including the valley. I just don't see that happening. In fact, after Wednesday, I think all shots are off at that point. But see, the thing is, too, the long-range forecast models have been a little all over the place with this potential for some rain next week. So we'll have to be able to, we really are going to have to fine-tune this forecast as we start going into next week. And, of course, watch my latest forecast for the day. You can check out Chase Wilson throughout the weekend. He'll have the latest as well. And, of course, I'll be back on Monday with a fresh new set of forecast model data to present to you. But, you know, see the Climate Prediction Center is predicting the wetter than normal conditions. But again, this is deceiving. This looks like, wow, look at all the rain. Not necessarily, because this time of the year, at least for Northern California, normal rainfall is not very impressive. So we can get above normal rainfall. Well, you've got that chance, but again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a ton of rainfall. All right, so the heat that we've been experiencing, that's continued to retreat. We've got this diving to the south, not necessarily moving any closer to us, but then, yeah, that's the cooler air. Now, you may notice, if you've been watching this week, this is kind of backing off on how deep and how far south it's going to dig. So temperatures probably not as cool as initially anticipated, but still significantly cooler than what we've been dealing with here, still in the low 80s for many of you in the valley. Then that goes back up to the north. We'll probably see temperatures start to slowly increase towards the end of next week and into that next weekend. And you can clearly see that as these nice little dip in the temperatures here, low 80s, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, starting to creep back up. But even as we go into that next weekend, it'll most likely still be a little bit below normal for this time of the year. There's a look at your lake levels for today. You can see it's still looking at historical average over 100% here. Elevation of Shasta Lake just under 1,000 feet at this point. All right, here's a look at your wave heights for your Friday afternoon, 2 to 3 feet here as we get close to the coast there. And we advance through time. It doesn't change much, does it? So there's not much change going on there. So there's your marine forecast. West winds at about 5 knots. Waves from the northwest at 2 feet at 7 seconds. And from the northwest at 3 feet at about 12 seconds. There will be some of that patchy, dense fog again. So here is your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. We do have those temperatures in the low 90s, that is here. Douglas City about 93, 91 for Weaverville. So don't be alarmed, but there is a chance for showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm for Monday, Tuesday. That may linger on into Wednesday, and again, I'm just putting the word chance in there because we'll have to watch to see if that disturbance on Saturday could bring us a chance for a few stray showers or thunderstorms. Now for the coast, showers off and on for Monday, Tuesday, but I think by Wednesday, Thursday, you're dry. So any rain we do see, by the way, probably won't be very significant. We take a look at the inland areas, also that chance for showers Monday, Tuesday, also not very significant when we're talking about that rainfall. Here is your Dignity Health Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast, and again, I put the chance in there. Now, I think it would mainly be western and central Siskiyou County that could see on Saturday that chance for a stray shower or thunderstorm, but places like McDowell, Doris, Tennant, McLeod, even east of that, most likely looking at dry conditions. And then there it is, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Chance for showers and thunderstorms, but that doesn't mean it's going to be widespread and it's going to be a big deal. I don't think that'll be the case. Modoc County, temperatures mainly in the 80s. There's that chance today. And I would say Fort Bidwell, Cedarville, Eagleville. Those are the best chances for any activity here today. Some of that may spill over into places like El Turris and California Pines. But to the west of that, I don't think we're going to see anything happening there. Then we take you to the south here for the eastern mountains, 85 for Bernie, 84 for Fall River Mills. And there's a look at your Susanville 7-day forecast. And there you can see it's not until Tuesday and Wednesday that we'll see some showers and thunderstorms. And then on Thursday, maybe kind of that lingering chance, but I think most of it will be to the south in Plumas County. Here's your Dignity Health Valley neighborhood forecast. Temperatures in the mid to upper 80s, 89 for Corning, 86 for Hamilton City. There you can see now it's Tuesday. Tuesday's the day that I'm giving the valley that chance. But there you can see your 7-day forecast for Chico. We're down to about 80 on Tuesday, and then temperature is slowly creeping back up after that. All right, let's take you up to the north here at about 92 for Redding as well as Anderson, and about 90 in Red Bluff. So what you'll notice here, again, I put that chance for showers even for Redding on Tuesday. Now, we may see some activity as early as late afternoon, evening on Monday for Redding. And as we go into Monday night, and that may linger on into Tuesday as well, but most likely looking at dry conditions for Wednesday, Thursday of next week. All right, that is a look at your forecast this morning. I'll have more at noon. Until then, have a great morning.
Construction season is well underway in the North State, and we'd like to remind drivers to slow down around work zones. Keep Caltrans workers safe when they're on the job, and remember to be work zone alert when you see the color orange. Remember to pay attention to signs, merge early, avoid distractions, and don't speed. This message is brought to you by Caltrans District 2.